Since the dawn of man, we've looked up the stars and wondered. The night skies give cryptic answers, but still we ask and wonder. Curiosity has led us to many strange places. Sometimes we're rewarded by the curiosity, and sometimes we regret what we find lurking in the darkness. This is my journey, an attempt to bring lightness to dark places and understanding where there's been only mystery. Please join me as I traverse the night. Hello and welcome to episode 8 of Nighttripper. I'm joined tonight by a special guest by Mr. Nate Baertsch. Welcome, Nate. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for taking the time. Nate is a tremendous artist, but also a tremendous human being, and I'm a fan. So thank you for taking the time. Thank you.
Of course, this is definitely not the type of show I normally do, so this is going to be fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had told someone that this was kind of something that I've wanted to do for years, and I think kind of being like doing the New to Mythic show kind of got me familiar and kind of knowing a little bit how to do it. And so I guess if I hadn't done that show, then Nighttripper may not have ever come about, but I definitely enjoy the conversations that I have with people, and I love when people reach out, and you're one of those ones that was like, hey man, I dig the show. I don't know if I want to be on it. I'm not sure yet, but I love the stuff, and that gets me excited because a lot of times people like I bring it up at work. I'm like, I even put a post on there's like a news thing on at the hospital at work, and I put my QR code for the podcast and said, hey, my name's Greg and I do and people don't really, there's just like one out of maybe 20 that will actually like, oh, I'm interested in that stuff. And there's kind of like a stigma.
Yeah, I know. I hate that there is, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I maybe it's like they don't want to be, embarrassed, or it's maybe not comfortable, or maybe there's some things that are private they don't want to share. I don't know, but
I told my wife I was doing this, and she's like, "Well, great, I guess I." So she gets into political stuff. She's been on our city council.
Mm-hmm.
She's currently serving on the board for Intermountain Healthcare. It's a big healthcare organization that's out here in Utah. So she's like a big deal. She's like a good normal person. You know what I mean? And she's like, well, since you're doing this, I guess that blows my Senate run. I'm like, I didn't know you were going to run for Senate, but at the same time, she does rub shoulders with those people. So
yeah. Well, I'll do my best not to discredit you or.
I'm happy to be here, happy to talk about all of it, and
Thank you.
I love this stuff.
I do too. It kind of says something about us, and I think it's just, in my mind, it's normal to be curious about all things, and I think a lot of the unknown or unexplained is kind of just natural phenomenon, but it's not really explained or proven, I guess. So it kind of gets this title of being, ridiculous or your imagination. Yeah. So
yeah, for sure. And you look at it historically, a lot of people would just shy away from talking about it at all for fear of the fact that people would think they were crazy and, all that stuff. So
Absolutely.
we're going to
Absolutely.
throw all that out the window, though.
Out the window. It's gone. Yeah, I remember when I saw the first time I saw a ghost, I was a kid, and I think I brought it up on the second episode or third episode, and like I wanted to share it with people so much, as a kid, just to maybe be accepted and like it's a normal thing maybe, or other people have seen this or experienced it, and instead it was just like, this kid's crazy, what's he talking about? And that kind of made me go more inward, like I can't really talk about this to other kids because it's not normal schoolyard conversation. So my dad was like, you're seeing things. So
yeah.
So here's my question, and that kind of made me think of something like, and I had talked to Gwesagwe about that. How and has it ever come up? You have kids, right? So has it ever come up with like, how do you share that with them, or do you express your beliefs to them? Like, could be possible. There could be ghosts. There could be whatever. Like, how do you tackle that, or have you?
That's a great question. On some level, I don't want to turn this into let's talk about my religion or in any way, shape, or form. But
sure.
But my religion does come into play a little bit. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I know that's a mouthful, so everybody calls us Mormons. But within the church, we're trying to move away from being called Mormons, because the focus really should be on Jesus Christ.
Right.
I am a devout member of that faith, so much so that I'm not currently serving anymore as a bishop, but I was serving as a bishop, not in the last 5 years. So, I mean, but in terms of like that faith goes, it kind of goes along with the rest of Christianity. I would say that most of the members of the church probably look at ghosts or paranormal activity kind of things much the same way that everyday Catholics would, or just everyday Christians, or even everyday Jewish people, or whatnot. Like, for the most part, most people kind of like, it is what it is. But also, but I'm also of the mind that it's like, look, if we read in the scriptures, it's pretty clear there's an afterlife, and it's pretty clear we're spirits, and it's pretty clear, like in our teachings, when we die, that spirit separates from our body, and we continue to exist. We continue to stay here within the earth sphere, as it were. So if we believe what we believe, then we have to believe that, yes, there are angels and entities and spirits and all kinds of things that are around us all the time. Like, I would dare say, I have the belief myself, and this is kind of what we taught our kids, is that you're never really alone. And I firmly believe that. I firmly believe that. I think there are times that if you want to be alone, you're probably left alone. But I also firmly believe that we're surrounded by loved ones that are trying to help us out.
I agree. Totally agree.
And we call it in our faith, we call it both sides of the veil. Like, there's the veil of death. What's happening behind the veil of death or in the spirit world is not something that we're always privy to. However, and there are accounts of spiritual beings manifesting themselves. And what's interesting is it's never really a negative necessarily.
Right.
Or it's really rare that it would be a negative thing, because we look at it very much in the vein of, most of the time, it's family. So in terms of like teaching our kids, it's pretty cool in that, well, it's cool and it's not cool. There was an instance that happened, and I knew that I was coming on this show, and so I actually got my oldest daughter's permission to share this story, because it ties into my story a little bit, and it ties into a little bit of Caleb's. Caleb had an experience. So our house, I don't consider the house I live in, this house that I'm in right now, I don't consider it haunted. However, there have been spirits here.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I'll just jump into my experience.
Sure. Hop on in. Yeah.
Or at least one of my experiences. Becca, my oldest, I'll start with her. I'll kind of, it's maybe easiest to go through her.
Okay.
She, when she was in junior high, so this would have been, 10, 15 years ago now. Maybe not quite that long. Maybe, well, yeah, probably anywhere between 10 and 15 years. We're not getting younger. She was the first one to move. All of our bedrooms are upstairs on the main floor. And I'm down here in the basement, and we had finished a lot of the rooms here in the basement. So she decides in her junior high year, she's done sharing a room with her sister, Katie, and decides to move down into the spare room down here in the basement. Fast forward, Shelly's grandma dies.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother passes. And within that time, she doesn't know that it was either grandparent that visited her, but there was a period of time when she had numerous visits living just here in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how basements are. Like, everybody kind of gets the jitters for some
Yes.
reason. And I've always felt, so my office is here, and there's my storage closet, and then the other side of that wall is the hallway, and the other side of that wall is her room.
Mm-hmm.
And I've often felt, even when we were building and finishing out this basement, every once in a while I'd get a weird feeling in my closet.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be like, this is dumb, this is weird. Like, even to the point of, like, I kind of said a prayer, as it were, and said, hey, if there's anything negative here, it needs to go.
Right.
This isn't a place for you anymore. If this was your place, I'm sorry, we live here now. You're
not welcome. Right.
Right. And after I had done that, I didn't really pay much attention, or didn't really have those feelings anymore. And again, they're just feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't seen anything, nothing moved weirdly, nothing like that. But when Becca moves down here, she had numerous accounts of seeing shadow entities.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, Dad, it's like, I know what I saw. Like, I looked at it, and it was there, and it moved, and it had a human form, and it would, like, turn to go like smoke as it would move away, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting, because that is consistent with some other experiences I've had with similar entities at other times. And then there were other entities. There was one, she said there was one night there was a green orb.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was like a pale green. It wasn't like, when you say glowing green orb in the middle of the night, a lot of times I think we try to imagine it being this, like, this miniature star forming in our room or something like that. And it wasn't like that at all. It was almost more like, when you have something that glows in the dark, and it's just emanating this subtle pulse of light.
Right.
But it's clearly there, and it was clearly moving, and it moved right through a room. And then there was another night, and she'd have to clarify on this one. I get the impression that she saw this lady a few times, but she called her the Blue Lady.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, again, she would see this, instead of an orb, it was like full figure, like whole body in a dress. And it's almost like looking at someone as if they were there in the room, but but it was in the dark, and she was emanating a very faint blue glow.
Wow.
And she had a dress. Fast forward to, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, was she ever afraid whenever she saw these manifestations? Was there any kind of fear?
Question. Yes. For the black entities, there was definitely a feeling of dread and fear and negativity. The orb was more curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the Blue Lady, it was the opposite, complete opposite. She felt at peace. She never could see the lady's face.
Mm-hmm.
She just knew it was a woman. and she just felt enormous peace. Like it was a good experience.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward to a time when my brother is staying down here in the basement, and we like to go. This was during a time when we liked to kind of go out and we would try to do little ghost hunts, kind of a thing. We never got in. I saw Alex's episode
Mm-hmm.
on, and I was a little jealous because I'm like, man, they had like equipment and everything, and we didn't
Right.
have or anything. Yeah, but we did similar kind of things. We would go to known places in the Salt Lake Valley or even out into
Mm-hmm.
the desert where we knew that there had been legends of stuff that you might see or whatever. We never did ever see anything, but one of the nights we did that, we came home, he stayed here at night, and he woke up the next morning, he's like, dude, you have so many spirits down here in your house, like specifically down here in your basement. And he said, and it's cool. They're all cool people.
Wow.
And that's all he said. And he distinctly remembers seeing a blonde woman. And he's like, I couldn't tell if she was old or young, or she was just peaceful
Mm-hmm.
and friendly. Like she was there, they visited. He didn't talk about anything, and as soon as he saw them, they kind of would vanish and disappear
Right.
off. But he also had that feeling of positivity
Mm-hmm.
surrounding the experience. And then fast forward to my own experience. So I've grown up with a family that talked about ghost stories. I know that my mom, and I'm not going to get into her experience necessarily without her permission. I haven't asked her permission
Sure,
yet,
sure.
but I know that she's had experiences, and she had talked about them. Our grandparents' house when we were kids, both grandma and grandpa and my aunt that lived there with them would talk about encounters that they would have
Mm-hmm.
pretty frequently. So it was kind of like normal. And I remember as a kid, I was like, that's all freaky stuff, and that's kind of cool. And like I love
Yeah.
Halloween, I love spooky stuff. And it's like
Yes.
I would love to see a ghost. I would love that. And I never did.
Mm-hmm.
All growing up, I never saw them, and I was like, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's something about me. I can't see them, or I don't see them, but I can feel like every once in a while you'll just have that
Yes.
feeling of like I'm
Yes.
not alone, and there's something not right here, or
Right.
why am I feeling this over? Like it would go both ways. Why am I
Right.
all of a sudden feeling this sense of peace and love that came out of nowhere? I'm not asking
Mm-hmm.
for it. It's just I have that feeling. Until I was down here. It was shortly after my grandmother had passed, and I saw what the only thing I can think of was the blue lady. So I'm sitting
Mm-hmm.
just in that room behind me.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm backwards here. There. Anyway, I'm sitting in the room behind me, and I'm looking at the TV, and off to my left is where it goes down the hallway, and that hallway is dark, but that hallway is also where Becca would say that she would see stuff. And all of a sudden I'm watching TV, and I notice out of the corner of my eye a brighter pale blue color emanate out of that hallway, almost to the point of like someone had turned on the light in the hallway. So it was kind of a flash. Oh, I must have.
That scared me for a second. I'm like, what is that? What is that name?
Casper is jumping into
Right,
the conversation. Yeah. So anyway, I see the flash of light, and it grabs my attention, and I actively see robes. Like I can see physical robes on a person walking down the hall. And instead of being filled with a what is that? Oh no. I was amazed at how peaceful I felt about it. Like, and excited. I literally jumped up and tried to look down the hall. And the minute that I got around the hall to look down the hall, it was gone, except for that overwhelming sense of peace.
Yeah.
But I know like that is the one instance where I wasn't just waking up. It wasn't during the witching hour.
Mm-hmm.
Those are other experiences I've had. I was fully conscious, fully awake. I looked over, and I know what I saw. And I know I'm an artist, right? I know that you can look at a light and have ghosted images kind of burned into your retina as you look to another place.
Right.
And this wasn't that. It wasn't that at all. It was very, and I can still see in my mind's eye the folds of that fabric. And I can see the way it draped and the way it just, and it looked as natural as a normal person just walking.
That's what I was going to ask you. So how similar was it to a woman walking, other than the ethereal light? Like, how similar was that, like, to a woman walking down the hallway?
It read in my brain as there was a person in my hall. Like, it was a person that was emanating just the faintest blue light. And it was, I just remember being excited. Like, it was an exciting thing.
There is, I think, exhilaration, when you see something like that. And that's something that I've talked about before, where I feel like there's like this Hollywood kind of thing where ghosts should be scary, and like, you should be afraid of this or that, or this kind of, and I think we need to kind of not go that way, or not think in that way. I think so. It's a natural thing that is just something that we shouldn't be afraid of. Not to say that there isn't things out there that we should definitely be afraid of or wary of. But I think our bodies internally know the difference. You know what I mean? I think, especially if you're attuned to it, you can feel like the good vibes and the peacefulness coming from this entity. Just like when my ex-wife was woken up by a man that lived there at one point. He kind of gently woke her up, and it wasn't blah, blah, like Beetlejuice. It was like a gentle, almost like their identity is still intact, and they're expressing maybe feelings of goodness and peace. And I don't know, I don't know, I'm grateful that you saw that and that you felt that. And it's cool too that your brother, he must have experienced other things to be so cool about. He
very much has. He's actually, it's my middle brother, and he's shared experiences with me. I'd have to fully get his permission to talk, but I mean, he's really gone down this rabbit hole in terms of other, the other dimensions, or the other existence that is around us. Whatever you want to call it, whatever name you want to put to it. I think we as a human family, honestly, it's the same thing for all of us, whatever it is. And I have my faith that answers a lot of those questions for me.
Right.
But that's going to be different depending on what you choose to believe or what you choose not to believe, and that kind of a thing. So it's interesting. And I think ultimately, though, it boils down to the idea that we have souls, and those souls continue to go on. Like, without getting too preachy or religious necessarily, I think that's a real thing.
I agree.
So, and that those, and if that exists, and if they are around us, then sometimes we can feel them or see them, or for whatever reason. I mean, I live 2.5 hours. Like, if I go 2.5 hours that way in my car, I get to Skinwalker Ranch in Utah.
I was just reading about that.
That's a place I don't know I'd ever want to go to. But
that's something that you telling your story, and I know there's more, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but real quick, location and the place. Your brother said that there's a lot of activity going on in your house, and Skinwalker Ranch is known for that too, having a lot of strange phenomenon. So I'm wondering if location, so say maybe there's something about the location of your home, or places. Like, I could be driving out in the country here in Michigan, and I'll be driving with my wife, and I'll be like, there's something that way. Like there's some woods over there, and I
You
can
feel it.
feel something. I don't know,
Yep.
maybe if I was closer, I might be able to feel if it's good or bad, or just an energy, so I think sometimes location might have something to do with manifesting of spirits or something. How or why, I would never even guess, but it's an interesting.
To that point, my grandmother's place when we were growing up, it's up in Bountiful, Utah, and that house, like you could just feel it. And like I said, I as a kid never saw anything, but I had stories from my aunt about, and whatever was in their house was not good. It was not ever peaceful. It was, whenever there were manifestations of anything, it was a spooky thing. Like it was negative. And it's funny, as my brothers and I, we were talking about it, we were like, well, what happened here? And we look into the history, and sure enough, there's, as the Mormon saints came into Utah and settled in Bountiful, they built a fort that was called Fort Bountiful. And you can see remnants of the stone walls and such on the various streets. If you're ever out in Utah, you'll notice a lot of the towns run on a grid pattern. That's just how they decided to build it out. And anyway, there's a fort there, and there was a fort there. It's been crumbled down. Like I said, just few remnants of it remain. But for the most part, it's just been built over with houses. Excuse me. And sure enough, as we looked into the geography and what happened in that area, in those saints, there were numerous problems with Native Americans and the LDS saints that were trying to settle and establish fort. And there was a pretty nasty massacre, honestly, that happened there,
right,
in a bad way. Not something anyone's proud of in their back history, but let's face it, that's part of the history. It's part of what happened there. And so my brothers and I kind of came to the conclusion, it's like, whatever entity is there at grandma's house had to be something, we feel like it could be connected. We don't know for sure, but we feel like it could be connected to the horrific events that did happen there.
Right.
So it's interesting. And I agree. Location is an interesting thing.
Yes. And I think that I was talking about this, I think, with Alexander about maybe it's Westigway, about spirits maybe that left in a manner that wasn't peaceful, or they have unfinished business, or they're so passionate about maybe what happened that they can't rest, they can't be at peace. That's easy for my mind to accept. If something happened to me in a brutal way, and maybe the person got away, or I feel like I would be too upset to rest and to be at peace because of what happened. I can see that. Maybe naturally we're so stubborn that we don't want to, we're ignoring that light, and I need peace of mind before I can. I don't know, but
I feel bad too, because I can't help but put the people behind it and think of what they're going through, and think of, we see that amongst the living already. Like, traumatic things will happen to somebody, and it's hard to let go of. Like, it's really, really hard to let go of. And so if something horrible and traumatic happens to you and then you die, I don't know what the rules are. Is it even harder to get over those things? Or do you require help from the living as proxy in some sort of way to be able to help release and move on? To help heal? Because at the end of the day, you think of villains, and it's kind of like what you were saying earlier about Hollywood, and how Hollywood likes to make spooky ghosts that just are like poltergeists or whatever, that just want to cause trouble or wreak havoc.
Right.
And that's probably true on some level, but I feel like for the most part, and if there's negative entity, it's probably following whatever negative energy put them in that position.
Yes.
And it's just remaining,
Well
and
said.
it needs to resolve somehow.
I agree.
That's my guess. That's just my guess.
Yeah, I mean, we can only speculate until we're actually experiencing it. But I feel like, and this is just me speculating again, I feel like sometimes in nature, what happens can be recorded. Like that kind of, like if you go to places where there's been wars or battles or massacres, you can feel that, that heaviness. And I feel like, I don't know how or why, but this is just but I just feel like nature can really like absorb that, like I've been, like I've said, by woods, and I could even see all the way through the woods. There's nothing there, but I can still feel that there's something, So I don't know. There's more to it. And I always lean on the fact that I think so much of what we call unknown is just nature, but we just haven't been able to puzzle it together. We haven't been able to prove things or have a way to prove things. But the afterlife, the spirit world, ghosts and things like that, like, demons and bad things, I think all of it is connected through nature. And that's just my, like, how I feel, like dying is natural, seeing spirits and stuff, I think is natural, and experiencing things, I think it's part of nature and it's natural. Some people are able to see things a little bit more than others, maybe, or notice or feel or whatever. But I just feel like it's all part of a bigger, grander scheme of things. And that's, I mean, maybe that's just how I see things, but
I love that.
It helps me. It helps me.
And I agree. I definitely agree, because I've had those same experiences. I went to school down in St. George, Utah. That's down in the Red Rock Desert of Utah. Looks like, well, what we thought looked like Mars back. Now we know better, but it still kind of looks like Mars down there. And I remember hiking through certain areas and feeling, just knowing I wasn't alone. And then some areas, I remember specifically a little grove that I intentionally walked around.
Yes.
The minute I set foot in it, I don't know what happened there. I don't know what was there. I didn't have any experience other than the feeling that I'm expressing right now. But I just didn't like it. And so I was on my own, and I just was like, nope, I'm not going in there alone. Right. I'm going around this, and I'm just going to walk where I feel safe.
Right. And you didn't have like any kind of, like, there was no warning light. There was no, hey buddy, don't go near there. But It's almost like you see in like the nature documentaries where you see like a deer or a gazelle, and they're like sipping water, and there's like an alligator or a cheetah or something, or a predator is like right there, but they have some kind of natural instinctual thing where I've seen them, like, right as they're getting, like, the deer will like jump and, like, you know what I mean? And maybe it's reflex, but maybe it's something more deeper that's instinctual. And I think some of us are more attuned to listen to that instinctual, like, hey, there's something that's telling me maybe I shouldn't be over here. Maybe this is not a good place for me. And maybe there's nothing there and nothing that can be proven or seen visually, but that doesn't mean that there's not something there.
Yeah. I wish my spidey sense, I'm just going to call it that.
Yeah.
I wish my spidey sense would have gone off sooner on a hike that I did do down there. When I was hiking up I hiked up through some kind of cliffs, did a little bit of bouldering, got up into a little valley that was kind of secluded and by itself. And I thought, I felt weird. I got into the valley and I immediately felt weird. And I'm like, why do I feel weird? And this time there wasn't anything mystical about it. My nose was telling me, you smell cat urine. And then my eyes, as I look around and I look and I see a carcass of a goat and another carcass of a goat. And I'm thinking, oh crap, I'm in a mountain lion's den. And thankfully they are not home right now. But I immediately turned tail and just got out of there. I was just like, I'm sure a lot of listeners wonder why I would go out hiking alone all the time anyway, but that's just what I do. That's what I do.
You connect to nature. You know?
You have to. Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, I think that for me, I think that a lot of this is just natural. It's just not widely accepted as, you know, just because we can't prove it, you know. There's no way to quantify or.
It wasn't that long ago that like magic was an accepted practice.
Right.
In a lot of ways. And I don't mean magic like, you know, I don't know what comes to mind, like sorcerers throwing lightning at each other kind of a thing. I'm thinking more of like a lot of the people that founded this country, Norwegian or Scandinavian people, they would put symbols on their barns. And those symbols represented, you know, bringing light and good harvest to their efforts and everything. Like those symbols were absolutely put there because they believed if they didn't put those symbols on that they were not going to have a good harvest.
Right.
And this was only a few hundred years ago, or even 100 years ago, kind of a thing, where it was pretty normal. Or divining rods, right? I think you talked about that before.
Yes, right.
The show, like that was still common practice. Even I remember being a kid and hearing about ranchers and stuff using divining rods to find wells.
I was going to mention that. Wells. Yeah,
they would absolutely. It worked. I don't know how, but they knew what they were doing and they could feel it, and it would to it. And like, but to your point, also, it's like, is it magic or is it just that there are other things about the universe and about nature that we've probably been wired to understand over the millennia, and today we write it off as something else, or we're just not as connected as we should be.
That's maybe. Yeah, I think so too, for sure. And I don't know if we could ever go back that way, because I think like a lot of that knowledge and all that passed down has been lost, or the why, you know, of why you would follow something that may seem like a superstition or, you know, something that's passed down or anything. But no, I just came to that understanding a few years ago, to where, you know, like, what is magic and what do people consider magic, and is it really magic? Like what signifies it? You know, is it something we can't understand or explain? You know, I mean, that's a huge thing. You know, if we can't explain something, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist or that it's not real. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing to me. I think magic is really something I would love to delve into more, just because I think it's so interesting. But I don't really hear a lot of people talk about it. You know, like there's the fear, like there's like witchcraft or, you know, white magic and stuff like that. And I would never mess with witchcraft or anything that has to do with satanic rituals or anything like that. It's just not for me, not something that I would ever. But I do have a natural curiosity of how magic is, how it's worked, how it's, you know, I don't know if it's, I heard someone say that it's like the power of believing or belief. You know, if you believe something strong enough, then maybe that gives nature power enough to, I don't know.
I firmly believe that. I mean, I think that there is power. Otherwise, I don't mean to get religious again, but here I go.
No. You're welcome.
It's there in the scriptures, like Christ says. Christ heals people, and he says, "Hey, it's by your faith. Faith is belief in action." So, I mean, there has to be something to that. Otherwise, why do we pray? Why do we, you know, like? And I think many of us instinctually pray. You know, we talk to the universe. We talk to who we believe God is. We talk to who we believe our Savior is, or we talk to Mother Earth, or we, whatever it is, whatever your belief structure is. If I feel like more and more, and the older I get, I feel like you should be resolute in your belief, because there's power in that, and use it for good. You know what I mean? Don't use it for, we wouldn't want to pray for somebody's ills,
right?
Or we don't want horrible things to, although that happens. We try to curse people all the time. There's a funny family curse in my family that is it's a little hard to ignore. I don't know if you want to hear that story or not, but
sure. I'm happy to hear anything you want to tell me.
It boils down to, curses could be real, is basically what I'm saying. And it's along the same lines of, like, I guess, be careful, choose today who you want to serve. Do you want to serve negativity and yuckiness, or do you want to be a being of light and kindness and love and that kind of a thing? I think we have to make those choices individually.
I agree.
And so the funny story is, it goes back to my great grandpa on my dad's side. It's an interesting guy. He was, the long story is, so this is my grandmother's father.
Okay.
My great grandfather. He was, at the time, he lived in Canada, and he would come down into the States to do work, which was pretty common. They'd have a homestead up in Canada. They would come out in the States. They would work on other people's farms, work fields, that kind of a thing, and then return back home with the money that they had earned. He was, and I'm foggy on this, so I got to be careful, but I know that he was betrothed to a young woman, and they were planning on getting married. And he's like, well, I've got to go down another season and work the farm so that we can have something to start our life with. So he comes down to the States, and he meets, lo and behold, another pretty young gal. Decides to date her, and the more that they date, the more they like each other, and the more they decide they're gonna get married and have a life together. And she decides she's gonna come back and come back with him to Canada. So she goes back up with him to Canada, and when he gets back home to where his fiance is, needless to say, it didn't go well for, obvious reasons. Hearts were broken and feelings were bad. There were bad feelings around it. And my great grandpa was like, no, I'm sticking with this gal that ended up being my great grandmother. But the scorned gal that he was originally engaged to cursed him. And supposedly, this is just a family tale. But cursed him to the point of saying, your name will not go on. His last name was Bruno. He was, French descent, living up in Canada at the time. His last name was Bruno. And lo and behold, life goes on. He and my great grandma, they have 14 kids.
Oh, wow.
And it's 7 boys and 7 girls. Like, I kid you not. Like, the family history is there. It's like 7 boys, 7 girls. It sounds like a musical, I know, but it is what it is. But for whatever reason, the Bruno name never went on from those boys. Many of them married, they either couldn't have kids. There was one that did have a child but died like shortly after the child was born. Ended up dying. A couple of the guys had gone off to the various wars that were going on between the world wars, and they had died, so they didn't have children. And it just turned out that all 7 of those men did not have. They didn't have anyone to carry on the name. All the other sisters and they all married and had kids.
Right.
And I come through one of those. That's my grandma. But yeah, it's one of those things where I didn't learn about this story until I was an adult, and I can't help but just look at that story and think that gal's curse held. Like, it did. Their name didn't go on whether they crafted a story to make it fit, I don't know, but why would they do that? You know what I mean?
Right.
The reality was that my great grandpa ticked off this gal and she cursed us, or cursed his line.
That's some strong magic right there.
And it makes you wonder, right? So speaking of magic, is like, was it magic at play? Is it the belief and the intent, like the intensity of, like, what was it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll keep watching your show. I'm hoping you'll get somebody from the South, because I've heard there's a lot of crazy stuff with voodoo magic as well.
I'm throwing a net, and I'm hoping to get some people that are familiar with that. So the more viewers that I get, and the more visibility I get on the show, hopefully I will get some people that are, you know, more familiar with that type of thing, because there's a lot to it, for sure.
Wow. That's wild stuff.
And I mean, a lot of it is scary, but like you said, I think, you know, it's intent, and it's you know, there's light and dark, and it can't get any more basic than that, I think. So, you know, maybe we have a lot more power than we realize when it comes to that, you know.
It's fascinating stuff. Yeah. Like, there's the science of how much, when the brain decides something, how much power that brain has to make it come to pass in so many ways, right? Like, it's yeah.
There's something to it. There's something to it. You know,
I think we're only using just a portion of what we could really do.
Yeah. I remember I was this was like early 80s. Well, yeah, probably 83 or 4. And I was kind of a lonely kid, and I would go to the bookstore all the time. And I was into metaphysical stuff, but I always kind of kept my mom's, you know, like, don't mess with witchcraft, don't mess with black magic, don't mess with Satanism and Ouija boards and stuff like that. And I always kind of respected that. But I was interested in other things. And I remember I found a book, it was like on ESP. And I was so interested, you know, it was kind of like, and the book was interesting. It kind of just said, basically, was just harness the power of your mind, you know, like,
it's always very vague, isn't it?
It is, but it was,
on some level it's vague, but on another level, that, like, there's talk of being able to focus and discipline your mind to focus and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Which you can see. I mean, you know, you see people deal with intense pain. You know, they're able to use their mind to turn it off. You know, you see people convince other people just by their, you know, their inflection or their eyes or what they're saying, or, you know, other things. But I tell you this, and people might make fun of me, but I used to practice bending spoons.
Really?
And I know it's nutty, but there was this technique, and I read it in the book, and I'll go over it real quick. It was like a mental exercise that you do. You visualize, and I still remember it. This was 40 years ago, you know, but it was basically visualize yourself somewhere peaceful. And so I visualized this green valley, and the grass was kind of, you know, flowing over me, and I'm laying on my back in this valley, and I can hear a stream, you know, kind of rushing by, and there's trees that are lining across or near the stream, and it's cool. The sun is shining, but it's not hot, and I just feel at peace. And they're like, they're saying, okay, just focus on that peace, focus on that feeling that you have. So it's kind of like you're hypnotizing yourself, and you're putting yourself in this state of peace. And they're saying, okay, now that's above you, visualize it coming down from the sky into your body, it goes in through your head, this warm light, this energy, comes through your head and slowly travels down your body. And when it gets to your chest, it splits. It goes into both hands. And even right now, like my fingers, I could feel my fingers tingling. And
Energy
so
flows.
it's yes. And so like I would get a spoon and it was like, this is how you do it. And so I swear to you, like, call me crazy, but like they would say, just put your fingers on the most the thickest part of the spoon, the stem, the handle, and just put your just a little bit of energy and feel that sun, that light going through your arms into your fingers, and let it go into your fingers and into the spoon. And Nate, I swear, like I did it a few times, and the spoon like just turned to like a noodle, like butter. I had a kid come over one time, and I was so like wanting to have friends. Like I had no friends because I was so introverted, and I wanted this kid to be my friend. And I'm like, dude, come over. I've learned this neat thing. You know, I've been reading this ESP book. And he's like, whatever. And so I told him to visualize, and I don't know if he did or not, but like I got him a spoon and I got me a spoon. And I'm like, you know, don't watch me, you know, visualize this. And we're both these kids, you know, but you know, and I just like this, it just bit like, and I kind of like threw it in his lap, and he was like, how did you do that? You know, did you actually bend? And he tried to bend the spoon, and it was not an easy thing to do. And just that energy just bent it. Like I only did it a few times, but it was really interesting to me, the power of
cloud splitting or cloud splitting.
I've never heard of that. What is that?
Same idea. You rest, you relax, and you look up in the sky, and you literally, if there are clouds, you can actually, you imagine them splitting, and then they split right where you imagine them splitting.
Never heard of that.
Yeah, that's a thing. And I remember in my younger years kind of playing with that, and sometimes it would work and sometimes it wouldn't. Mm-hmm. But I think you hit on something that's important, and that you'll hear people that get into this talk about what you're doing is, by imagining that peaceful place, you're elevating your wavelengths, or your brain wavelength into a realm or a level or whatever it needs to be that can harness whatever that power is that you use to do.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with, like, is it Reiki? That's basically like the Force, but for real.
Right.
Like it's Asian martial arts, or just Asian arts in general, where, you know, you can take down an opponent by using their energy against them.
Right. Yeah.
And with the most subtle and small movements, or not even coming in physical contact with somebody and knocking them down on their butt.
I believe that for sure.
You know, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a practiced real thing that very much falls into my mind into, is it magic, or is it just they've come to an understanding in their studies? It's the same thing with like monks and meditation and stuff like that. Like, of channeling that energy and being able to open up their soul and harness power and hopefully use it for good. You know what I mean? And thankfully, for the most part, those that practice that are good people, and they center themselves, they become connected with nature. They're interested in the well-being of others versus gaining power for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've seen videos where these monks are just so centered, and they just do amazing feats just by harnessing their own, you know, their body and the abilities of the body. Because who's to say what we're capable of doing, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, the only
talk, but yeah. Let me rephrase that. Western medical doctors hate this kind of stuff.
Right. No, I know. Yeah, they call them quacks, and and charlatans and all that stuff. But
yeah, and
I don't know.
there's some of those out there too. Like I'm not beyond accepting and recognizing there are some individuals that probably play on this for their benefit to prey on others, which that's a sad thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, all that stuff is, and the more I do this show, the more I'm open-minded on so many things, just hearing people's stories and their experiences and stuff. It just makes me, I don't know, I just feel like I understand things a little bit more, and there's less fear.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it is just fear of the unknown, and fear of not understanding. And I guess it's okay you don't have to know everything. You don't have to understand. Maybe someday you will. But
I would admit that is part of the point of this existence, I think, is not knowing everything, because like faith is a thing we have to use on some level. I was watching something that was along these lines, that has nothing to do with any religious type of a thing, but I found it interesting of the correlation that happened there, where it was dealing with UFOs actually, and alien people, and how they're intentionally not coming around, because if they do, then it removes a level of agency on our part. Like on some level, there has to be a component of belief. Going back to what we were talking about with belief, there has to be part of our existence here, I think, is to hone that belief and point it into the direction of truth, essentially.
Right.
And that there's power in that, and that that's kind of part of the existence here. It's a part of the trial, as it were. If we're here to be tested, or if we're here to have our own unique experiences and hopefully benefit others along the way, I mean, some of it is faith, because as you continually exercise on those beliefs, and then you see little moments of, oh my gosh, that's real.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like getting a little. It's not necessarily dangling a carrot and trying to get you to go a certain direction. It really is more just establishing a relationship with our Creator, and trusting in those feelings that we have.
I agree. I totally agree.
In the sense that it will, hopefully help us progress as people, but also so that we can help each other.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, look at, and this has happened to me too, where I felt in the presence of something that was wrong or evil, and I prayed, and that prayer, I don't know, I believe that, who I believe in answered, or was there to maybe protect me. But maybe it was just my own, mind making me feel at ease. But I don't believe that. I believe that there is something more. I was raised a Christian, and that faith, I feel like, has given me peace, when I was young. And we could have a whole episode on religion and believing and all that stuff, but people probably wouldn't want to hear me blabbering about it. But
well, you never know. Maybe they would. Put it in the comments.
Never
right?
know. You never. Yeah, right. Exactly. But there's power in prayer. Like it's a almost a cliched saying, but it's worked for me. It's helped me even when I would have nightmares. I would say, "Dear Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, please, relieve me from these, nightmares." I don't remember exactly how I used to say it, but it was like a prayer that I kind of thought of, where I'm addressing him, like, please take away these prayers, and it worked. It would give me peace to go to sleep, even if I'm paralyzed in fear of whatever it was that I was dreaming about. I would say this prayer, and it would, put my mind at ease. So I think there's power there. There's definitely something there. It's just, you just have to get people to believe in something, even if you don't believe what I believe in, believe in something, because it's real.
Yeah. That leads me to, and maybe we end on this one. I don't know how long to go, but
we could have a part 2 for sure if you want.
I'm happy to come back. We haven't even gotten into the UFOs yet.
But I know we got to do that next. Let's do a part 2 soon.
We'll do a part 2 and we can go into UFOs.
Yeah.
But speaking of prayer and the power to be able to dispel that negative energy, I think it does a few things. It shows that whatever that negative energy is that you're reaching out to that higher power that can bring healing to not just you, but to them probably.
Yes.
On some level. It was around the same time that I had seen we call her the Blue Lady at our house because that's what she is, Blue Lady. There was one night, and this was one of those. So I want to talk sleep paralysis, and I know that scientifically, it's out there that people will, like, you kick off a hormone in your brain when you go to sleep, so that when you dream and you dream about running, that you're not actually physically running in your sheet. Any of us that have a dog or a cat we've watched, you can tell when they're dreaming about running because they actually start kind of moving their legs around and maybe they have a not as much of whatever that hormone is, but our brain actually does kick out a hormone when we sleep so that we stay put. And sometimes when you come up out of sleep, that sometimes you become conscious before that hormone wears off, and that creates that sleep paralysis moment. And oftentimes it's accompanied with negative dreams. Oftentimes people claim that they see shadow people. But the more people you talk to, the more, and the experience that I've had is proven that the shadow people were a separate thing than my sleep paralysis. And in fact, when I've had experiences where I've had sleep paralysis and there wasn't an entity there. It was just a negative feeling. I could tell I was having a bad dream. And then once I came to and whatever that hormone wore off, like, okay, I'm fine. I'm back to normal. Got up for the day and it was fine. There was one night I remember waking up probably somewhere between 2:30 and 3. That's to be noted for, and I roll over and I'm in bed with my wife and I can see, it looks like literally a shadowy figure is sitting there next to my wife. And I roll over, and as I look up, and I immediately start to get up, and as soon as I do that, it went away and was gone. And I don't know about you, but like when I wake up in the middle of the night, I try not to turn on lights or anything because your eyes are already adjusted to the dark. So if you're seeing something dark and it goes away, you're seeing that. Like your eyes are in the best possible condition to be able to discern that. And I'm like, well, that was strange. I don't know what that was, but I was kind of on edge, and I just laid there for a minute, sat there, ended up using the bathroom, came back into bed, laid down. It's like, okay, whatever it was, I think it's gone. Feels like it's gone. So I go to sleep and I wake up just like a half hour later, and it's now on my side of the bed looking right at me. And I can see its dark silhouette, and I can see 2 distinct red pinpoints of light where its eyes would be.
No, sir.
And I'm like, yeah. And so I call upon my prayer and faith.
Right.
Like I commanded that thing in the name of our Savior Jesus Christ to depart and to be gone. Yeah. And the first few times that I tried to say it, I could feel it. It almost felt like it was holding my throat.
Yeah.
In a manner that I couldn't quite get the words out. But I still kept trying, and then finally I did, and it dissipated and left. The good news to this is this happened probably 6 years ago. The weird thing is it happened just before I was made a bishop.
Wow.
So take that for whatever it's worth. I don't know what that meant, but it did happen just a few months before I was asked to serve as a bishop. Anyway, since then, there hasn't been any entity like that in my home at all.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
honestly,
goodness.
like my home is a good place. It feels like a good place. It feels back to where, like the blue lady could show up. That would be cool. But
Right. Yeah. You feel
yeah,
safe.
yeah.
It's a safe place. Yeah.
So
Yeah. We'll have to talk about that. Like I definitely believe that the sleep state and dreaming, I think there's way more to it than just us, resting our brains and our brain just galloping away and thinking of. I think there's a lot more
I
to
think so too.
that. So I definitely think that is something that we should talk about also, besides UFOs.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's just to put my 2 cents on that. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
I do think a lot of the time our dreams are just what they are. But every once in a while, and all of us have this, every once in a while you just have a dream that you wake up from and you're like, whoa, that one was different.
Yes, I was just about to say that. Yeah. I had a recurring dream, and I'll bring it up in the next our part 2. But
cool.
I never understood what it was, but it was like so much more than a dream, but I still never understood what it meant. So I'll go into it on our part 2. But so we got to talk about sleep. We got to talk more about power of prayer. Yeah. We got to talk more about UFOs for sure. I need to write this down. We got a lot of stuff, guys. So
we'll put it in our chat thread so we can.
Yes. So gear up, people. I'm super honored and had a great time talking with my friend Nate. Thank you, Nate. Thank you so much for giving me an hour. It went by like way too fast, and cool. We definitely have to do it again, man. Thank you guys so much for watching. And look for Nate to be back sooner than later, I hope.
Nice.
Definitely. We will schedule him for part 2 and part 3. It's going to be a good time.
Very fun.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Nate. I appreciate you.
Peace out to everybody.